This is episode 18 of the Light on Leeds podcast, where I talk to Zoe Parker and Lucy Meredith, who are real-life mermaids. This episode also features my noisy and naughty cat Grim. Grim's just recovered from a nasty cold, which made him lose his voice. He's certainly making up for it these days, which I'm sure you will hear. Enjoy! So for episode 18 of Light on Leeds podcast, we have Zoe Parker and Lucy Meredith. Thank you so much for coming along.
Hi.
So can you just tell us a little bit about how you both met?
We met via Twitter. We were kind of Twitter friends, just kind of, you know, on the peripheries, both doing things in the arts, dance and theatre and stuff. And, well, that was the start.
Yeah, and I think we may have been friends on Twitter because of Culture Vulture.
Right.
I think we both were blogging for Culture Vulture at the time, but I knew her name on Twitter, Lou Loves Glitter, but I didn't know who she was. So then I went to this performance that was at Bramley Baths, which was not really a performance, a exhibition, and it was by Lizzie Coombs, and it was under the water. Pictures of this orchestra that had played there, I think, 6 months before. And all of the pictures, well, some of them were women with like old vintage hats on, and I just got this idea that I wanted to do a performance there. And then this opportunity came up to apply for some money at Barnsley Civic, which has a water wall, which made me start thinking about dry land synchronised swimming. And then Twitter, Lucy wrote a blog which was about dry land synchronised swimming.
Well, I'm an ex-synchronised swimmer, competitive, and I retired at 18 to come up, and I went to drama school. I went to Bretton Hall up here, so I didn't compete anymore, and I kind of just really stopped doing synchronised swimming. And then after I graduated, I got asked to be in a performance for Slunglow Theatre Company, which was at a swimming pool in Shipley. It was called the Northern Big Board, and so I was doing some synchro, and it kind of, you know, rushed back how much I liked doing it. And so I searched around Leeds trying to find a class that I could go to that was just for fun rather than competing, which I'm too old to compete now. Level-wise, because you'd be competing against 10-year-olds or something. And I just couldn't find a class anywhere to go just for fun. And so I wrote a blog about it, and I was like, you know, may as well just try swimming on dry land or something like that.
And I could see like a similarity in what Lucy wanted to do and what I wanted to do, so then we met for a coffee. And actually I did go and see Northern Big Board, so I actually saw you perform. I just didn't know I did. Yeah. So that's how Yorkshire Life Aquatic started. We started with a performance at Barnsley Civic, and then we did another performance at Bramley Baths, and it was quite crazy, sort of a bit like silent theatre. 6 performers doing dry land synchronised swimming on outside of Barnsley Civic, and then we translated that and put it into the water, which was probably even more crazy, really, because things like where you can run quite quickly, it's really hard to swim that quickly.
I bet it was really hard to adapt from going from dry land to
in
water.
6 sessions, in 6 sort of 2 or 3 hour sessions we did it in.
Yeah,
it's good performance though.
I kind of wanted to do something where I could combine synchronised swimming and a more performative element, I suppose, because I kind of grew up watching Esther Williams films from the 1950s, you know, $1 Million Mermaid, stuff like that. So it's all about the kind of not doing modern synchronised swimming where you have to be at this really amazing fitness level to be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's more about using big groups and creating like really beautiful patterns and stuff like that, and kind of looking at the Busby Berkeley kind of choreography.
Sounds amazing. And so do you get other people who get involved who've never done anything like that before? And
yeah. Well, we run a community class at Bramley Baths called Bramley Mermaids Club.
Excellent.
And that's just like an open class for anyone to join of any ability, as long as you can swim.
Yeah,
it's fine. And we've been running it for like 5 years, so we've got people who've been with us for 5 years, so actually getting quite good. And then we've got people that join every week, pretty much, don't we? So there's the scale of abilities is quite wide, but it's fine because we kind of make it kind of simple. It's kind of like creative swimming more than synchronised swimming, but just using some of the synchronised swimming techniques, but really basic stuff.
Sounds fantastic. And did you get people from all sort of different age groups come and join?
Yeah, I think sort of 30s, 40s, 50s are the most dominant. I guess like lots of things, but some in their 20s and some in their 60s. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's all women though, because it started in a women only session when we first started the group, and so that's kind of how it's evolved.
I wonder how much interest there is in synchronised swimming in men.
Well, there's a whole film called Swimming with Men.
Is there? I must
it's on Netflix. You should watch that. It's brilliant.
I think if men came to us, we could find the pool time.
Yeah,
we would be happy to start a class.
Definitely. We'd have to do it though at a different time. Is all we were thinking.
Yeah,
we did think about making it mixed, but it's just because it's been women only for so long, and it's just it's a great space for people just to
be themselves,
and have time for themselves rather than thinking about other people, which feels like. So I'm sure that is the case for men as well. But it feels like a good space to have just women.
Yeah. And Bramley Baths, is that one of those beautiful old?
Yes, it's gorgeous. It's an old like vintage pool. It's got the
Edwardian.
It's actually community led as well, so it's actually run by the community because the council wanted to shut it in 2013.
That's great.
We've got a 50-year lease now for it, and they've won awards for their sort of ability to community lead, and they're an eco hub now, and so they're going from strength to strength really.
We've found they've been very supportive because they're quite progressive and they're open to like new ideas and things like that. So we run junior mermaid classes there in the holidays as well, so we have like 8 to 12-year-olds who come and do it. We have tail day, so you can actually put on a
my sister will have to tell my sister about that. She'll just be over the moon, and she lives in Malton, but she will come just to go to that.
People do come from quite far, for one-off sessions. Also we've just done a heritage project
for the Heritage Open Tours.
Well, it might be part of that, but it's more about... so back in 2013, we collected a few stories of people about their swimming experiences. And then in 2015, we expanded that into... It was called the Memory Aquarium.
Oh, right.
And we collected, 20 different stories of people. So people who danced when they
swam there in the 40s and 50s. So it was quite older people that we were interviewing about their experiences, and it was really interesting, wasn't it?
Their husbands they met on because there was no heating, so in the winter the boards went down and there was no pool, and it was like the club. There was one in Pudsey, there was one in Armley, those were the two big ones, but there was one in Bramley Baths. So they bring all the bands in, and it's funny thinking about where the sauna used to be, although it's not there now. That used to be where all the bands were, and they used to have
curtains
and the balcony. You can imagine dancing on the balcony to the band down there.
Sounds fantastic.
It's just amazing to think that I don't know when you're swimming in a pool, thinking, this is also was it like a disco? What? That's weird. Yeah.
Part of the history and everything. So can people still access that?
Yeah. So what's just been done this year is it's like a multimedia journal about it. It's just been completed. There's going to be a printed version, but also it'll be online available. And the online available one, you'll be able to click on all the sound bites.
Wow.
But we also made, or somebody in our project made, designed this telephone, so it looks like an old telephone, and you pick it up, and if you press a button you get to hear one story, and then you press the next button you get to hear the next. So that's sort of available to go to community groups and things like that in Bramley.
Oh, what a great idea. We'll put links in the podcast notes that people can find out about all these different things.
Yeah.
So the reason why I got in touch with you both was because of Culture Vulture.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about what Culture Vulture is for anybody who doesn't know?
So it's an online website that looks at all the aspects of Leeds that are cultural. Personally, I got involved quite a few years ago now as just going along to events and stuff that they were running, and then I started, because I've got a background in theatre, I started doing a little bit of reviewing of theatre reviews for the website. What did?
Yeah, I got involved because I was interested in reviewing. At the time, I was very interested in reviewing dance, and because I wanted to make it a little bit more accessible for people who don't know about dance.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how successful I was at doing that, because I think apparently I did use quite a lot of jargon that my non-dance friends were like, what are you talking about? But that's what got me into it, and then I quite enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, and so you both still write for Culture Vulture and still involved in their projects, and
we podcast now.
We do a lot of, because they're branching into other medias as well. So we did a bit of podcast training with one of the members of Culture Vulture, and now we kind of do like a bit of a double act. I suppose.
Because I suppose we're similar in some ways, but actually opinion-wise we can often have quite very different opinions. So we can go to the same show. And people might think, oh, they'll agree, won't they? No. So
I bet that makes for a very interesting episode.
Yeah, I think so,
because you're hearing it from both sides. And
it makes it a lot more fun. So we will go together, and then we'll sit down afterwards, and we'll make a review. And I suppose it's. I quite like the writing, but it's a lot easier to express yourself when you're just talking.
That's right.
And podcasts are really big now, aren't they? Anyway, and people listen to them when they're walking the dog and things like that. So you're more likely to get more people to actually engage with it.
Yeah, and I think there's something different about podcasts than radio programs. I mean, I like listening to radio programs, but I think there's something that feels much more. What's the way of thinking about it? It just feels more sort of homely, and like you're there, and it feels a little bit more
it's natural, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
more natural.
You definitely hear a natural voice, and as well, especially the way we do it is just like how we're chatting now.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it very clear that it is opinion, because sometimes I think when you're writing down about things, it sounds like it's fact.
Yeah.
But actually, it's always someone's opinion,
of course
isn't it?
It is, yeah.
But I think that was always very clear in a podcast, because I loved it, Lucy hated it, and these are the reasons why. Whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, though. I think it makes for a really interesting episode. I'll definitely have to listen. So, is that available everywhere you'd normally find podcasts?
We might need to send you links, but I was thinking, what did we do the last one we did?
The last one I did was My Beautiful Laundrette.
Oh, did you enjoy that?
Oh, I loved it. I was very
we did
excited.
Gary Clark's one, didn't we? Together?
Oh yeah, Wasteland. The dance piece was amazing. But they're all on the Culture Vulture website,
right?
As far as I know.
I think if you either look under Lucy Meredith or under Zoe Parker, because normally you can go to there's like a contributors list, and then all the things
they're in the podcast section on Culture Vulture, because you can.
Oh, is there a podcast section?
Yeah, we'll definitely have to check that out. And so, can you tell me a little bit about tea intolerance? What is that?
Okay, so in 2014. Fran Graham, in fact, that we were talking about before, that's from Bramley Bass, or not now, she isn't, but she was then, put up this article on Facebook about the York Mosque that invited the English Defence League in for tea when they were protesting outside.
Wow.
So it made the papers because it's such an unusual way to react to people protesting and saying I don't know what they were saying, but where you might have had fear, you're getting someone who's opening the doors, inviting them in, playing football and chatting, drinking Yorkshire tea.
Yeah.
And she called it tea intolerance. And so I was like, oh, can I have that name? And we've had quite a lot of arguments about whether tea intolerance is a good name or not a good name, but it's the name anyway. Yeah. So basically, we thought we wanted to make an art project that, or installation that reflected those kind of values. And so we did, and so what we came up with is this tea trolley with sort of tea pots and coffee pots and stuff that sort of goes against imperialism, so it makes you think about drinking tea and coffee all over the world. Yeah. And you choose a teapot or coffee pot or cup, and then you choose, you go inside and you pick out a scroll.
Yeah, and they had questions on them. It's us two, and also Jason Hurd, who's another artist in Leeds that we work with quite a lot, collaborate with on lots of projects. And between the three of us, we sat down and we kind of honed a list of really, really open questions that would provoke good conversations. Yeah. And kind of along with that is we would kind of be there to kind of, I suppose, facilitate how to have a good conversation, or a conflict-free conversation.
Yeah, I suppose if there's any awkward sort of silences, which you can get quite a lot with British people, to sort of help people along a little bit.
Or to embrace the silence and it's not too. You don't need to fill it with something. It's all right to take a minute and just breathe.
And there's something about, so some of the principles of tea intolerance, the reason that we went to Jason Hurd was because Jason Hurd is the Institute for Crazy Dancing. And he has, or he had at that point, I'd been to it in Bradford, this installation that's been running for 7 years called the Lifeboat.
Okay.
So the Lifeboat, for me, when I went on the Lifeboat and then I thought about tea intolerance and what we might do, what he does on the Lifeboat, I was like, we've got to work with him because he'll know what we need to do. So that was how that collaboration came about. And the Lifeboat is it's the shell of a boat with the ribs, and then it's got 4 hammocks on it, and it's got like a little roof, and it's and you rotate it round and round.
It's the slowest ride on earth.
Oh,
it's like an anti-fairground ride.
Yes. All right.
And you sit in it in your hammock, and we spin you very, very slowly.
That sounds
and
lovely.
We tell you stories, and we
Which go, A is for ahoy there and welcome aboard.
And it's about slowing down and having a little bit of
kindness,
and
cooperation.
That's brilliant.
And that slowness of it is the thing that makes those. You're not telling people to do anything. Those things just start to happen because you're like lying in a hammock, literally seeing a different perspective on the world as the world goes round. It just takes people out of their normal.
And so that's still going on. He still does that now. And
8th year of touring.
We're crew members on.
Yeah, we're crew members.
But tea intolerance is the 3 of us, and it's kind of developed using these really open questions just to get. And we noticed, because we've been working with loads of different community groups around Leeds, like different faith groups, age groups. Arts groups,
geographic areas,
all around Leeds, a lot in like LS14 and Seacroft and places like that, and just kind of honing the questions as we go and see how people react to certain questions, which questions work better, things like how does it feel to be vulnerable, and just really kind of wide things. And we kind of discovered that if people wanted to talk, they would use the openness of the questions to be able to talk about what was on their mind. So it's kind of a nice way to get people to talk without them feeling a bit self-conscious.
Yeah, you sort of give them permission by making the topic nice and wide. Yeah. And then once you get going, it all comes out.
And so, having done that for all this time, we decided about 2 years ago, I think, that it would be great if we could, like, what would be the next step, but it would be great if there could be something that existed without us. Because it's quite expensive to, bring people in and how does that continue? So we've made a game called Being Human, the conversation game. Right. So it's got all the principles. So we had to work out what the principles were of us being there facilitating the trolley, but it's actually in a game. So it's on a tea towel. There's different card sets. So you've got welcome questions about you, questions about us or the world, and quotes. So quotes are either famous or other real humans have said. And just again, it's just a way to sort of, in a playful way, have a conversation, and maybe again hone your conversation skills, because we've created sort of pauses within it that I think you can start to examine where you talk over people, where you leave space.
We created some kind of, we didn't want like rules as such, but more like play nicely kind of
guide.
Like suggestions, like be kind, don't speak over people, enjoy the silence,
listen,
reflect.
Very
be a generous listener, things like that.
And so have you had similar feedback than you had when you were going out and doing that in communities? You've had similar feedback from the board game?
It's different, isn't it? It's not massively different, but it's slightly different.
Are people still getting the same sort of benefits?
Yeah.
Usually we'll go in if it's a new group and we'll run it with them.
Right.
Or if it's an organisation with volunteers, we'll spend time with them, kind of loosely training them. And the best way to train them is to play the game with them, kind of thing. And once they've got it, We leave them with a game, and then they can then use that without us having to be there all the time. So it's all like open source, so you can go and look at it on our website kind of thing, so you can get your own questions, or you can make your own questions. And as we go along, we always ask people for their questions, so the questions just grow.
And you get blank cards in the game, so you can just add your own questions as well.
So you're building up a question bank all the time as well, and that must be lovely hearing questions that you maybe wouldn't have thought about and getting those suggestions in. That's fantastic. So have you got anything else that you were involved in that's so good? I can't believe all the things. I can't believe you've got time to do all these things.
We've got a dry land synchronised swimming show, which is made up of us and some other dancers as well, and freelance performers that we get in, and that's kind of our festival show.
Right.
And it's very Esther Williams based, so polka dot swimsuits, and it's all about I suppose it's about women, being comfortable with their bodies
and freedom. And I think it started from the first idea in my mind was like British women on the beach with a towel trying to change underneath it, and the awkwardness of not wanting to be seen, but also kind of wanting to be. I don't know. It's that. I know. I always think I thought that synchronised swimming is a little bit like how beauty is. So. Everyone wants to be beautiful. Not everyone. Lots of women want to be beautiful, but they'll wear things like high heels, which actually can be the most ugly things, awkward things ever. And synchronised swimming the same. All very beautiful on the top, but then the legs are going mad, and you've got this weird nose peg on, and you're smiling like. I just think I like those counterpoints, and I think some of that was some of the ideas that we brought out on the show. Also, you could take it through a Hollywood musical theatre kind of history.
It's very
umbrellas and
very vintage style. We do it as a cabaret show, so we've taken that to various cabaret venues and things like that. So we have a 10-minute cabaret show and then a 20-minute outdoor festival show, which we usually take out on the road in the summer.
I bet that's lovely.
It's chilly during any other time.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you go from sort of city to city to different festivals and
And I think one of the things that strikes audiences, especially women, is because they look at a woman in a swimming costume and a normal looking body woman and go, there's an internal question of, could I do that? And so the braveness, it's not a major braveness, but that braveness strikes. That's often the feedback that people will say to me, I couldn't do that, or I'd really like, they think about whether they could or they couldn't. They think about, because I always feel like sometimes when you're getting older as a woman, women just start to cover up more and more and more. It's like, are we going to disappear eventually?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a body, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
You can see it whether you've got clothes on it or not.
Yeah. That's great, going out and making women think about that kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of goes down really well at vintage festivals, like seaside related things. So we've been touring that for quite a few years, haven't we? Well, the show's it changes every year, and it changes with every new person we get in. It's kind of got a very clowny element to it at the moment, which we're kind of developing, because it can be quite funny. You don't want it to be all too serious.
Yeah,
it is a bit ridiculous. You're putting towels down on like a road in the middle of a town. Okay then. And sunbathing.
Synchronised swimming.
Sunbathing in the rain and things like that. Sometimes.
One section is all like bathing beauties, because we did all this work actually when we first did it with so in the 50s they had particular rules about photography. So if you wanted to look beautiful as a woman, you would like it's all angles, so your feet will go a 45 degree one way, then your knees will go the other, then your hips will go the other, and your waist will go, your shoulder, so everything's all in tandems, and then you never pop your chest out, you've got to push it in, and there's just quite a lot of rules around what they thought would make aesthetically beautiful picture and make the woman look hourglass, which was the thing of the time. And so we did quite a lot of work trying to work out some of these Esther Williams figure poses, and we made that into a little section, sort of bathing beauties section. Sunbathing and
get to perform to very lovely vintage music, and so it's all good fun.
And I suppose it's great as well to sort of see when you talk about these sort of beauty images and standards and things that we have, you know, how much thought had gone into all of that, like how you hold yourself and where you go, and you know, to look your optimum.
I mean, I was so policed, I suppose, women at that point in their, you know, what they could do, how they could do it, who they could go out with, how they could be seen in the media.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of those questions are still. I mean, you know, I suppose we have more rights, maybe, but I think a lot of the sort of the questions about beauty standards and, like you said, about the whole covering up and ageing and things like that.
And that invisibility, isn't it? That invisibility that comes with age as a woman, that you start to just nobody notices you anymore.
No, yeah, and it's also the whole thing of, you know, with celebrities and, you know, social media and things like that. You know, you can go around thinking, oh my god, that person looks amazing all the time, but actually, you know, when you think about they have stylists and they've been lit in a certain way, and they've, you know, they're wearing like a designer gown that they haven't had to pay for and things like that. I think there's still all the issues that we still struggle with today. So have you got anything else that you need to tell me about?
We've just done a project in February last year called the Human Aquarium.
Wow.
Which we took over a empty shop unit in St John's Centre, one of the huge ones. I think it used to be Bargain Buyers or something. It's now HMV.
Right.
But we went in there. I got a bit of, I watched Blackfish. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't seen that.
It's a film about killer whales.
I've heard about it. Yeah.
And I got very angry at that, and I was thinking about how can we use, because we got nicknamed the Mermaids and we've got these mermaid tails, and we've been in the Yorkshire Post with these beautiful tails on and everything, and it's kind of like it was the link between dolphins and whales and humans, and so we decided to kind of use that imagery to kind of get people to try and think about what they're doing to the oceans, like, you know, ocean plastics and things like that. So it was kind of a bit more of an environmental project, but still using kind of art as a tool for education and for activism, but like gentle activism, because nobody likes to be told they're wrong. You know, you start wagging your finger at people and, you know, saying you're bad for thinking this or that, then it doesn't work. You shut people down. So it was kind of about a really you know, a piece of work that's quite powerful. A lot of it was photography, so we had lots of amazing mermaid models in the North Sea in October, swimming around.
You must be very persuasive.
They're very amazing, like sea swimmers who were really used to it. And I was like, oh my god, are you all right? And they're like, no, this is nothing.
This is every day, but with a mermaid tail.
And mermen, obviously, mermen, and so we kind of, it was like a multimedia experience. So using like lighting to create a journey around this space. That we had a lot of recycled plastic that we scavenged from various places, and we created some sculptures and some installations out of that, and photography and video, and collaborated with a few local artists as well who work in recycled materials and things. Yeah. So it's just about creating something to make people think, and we got a lot of visitors. We were open for 12 days and we had like over 2,500 people come through.
We had 7,500 people.
Oh, sorry, 7,500.
She's forgotten 2/3.
7,500 people in 12 days.
Yeah.
So people must have been really into it and really wanted to come and be part of the experience, and, you know,
I think it was a varied experience as well, like, because we looked at, it was multi-layered in how we looked at what environment is, and one of the things that was sort of came up after we started doing the project was that it's quite environmental work in the UK is quite whitewashed. So the people who were applying to do things and volunteering, they were all white people. Nothing wrong with that, because we are mainly a white country. But then you just start thinking about, I started thinking about anyway, well, why is that? And then it's like, oh, environmentalism sits on colonialism, sits on slavery, and then it's like, oh, that's really bad, isn't it? I hadn't thought about, like, so it's not, we tried to make it a lot about people, not just about stuff. Yeah. And because we live in the environment and it's our behaviour that needs to change. Yeah. And if you're looking for equity, we have to start thinking about what are the roads in, who have we told about it, who knows, who has access to the space.
That's really interesting, yeah.
And actually, two of the main, two of the models is a friend of mine and her daughter, who I've known, 25 years, and it just sort of happened. And they're from a sort of Afro-Caribbean heritage, and it was a beautiful thing not just to have white people on the wall.
Yeah.
When you think of a mermaid, I would say generally you'd think white mermaid,
Ariel,
Ariel, Disney, but a mermaid could be any colour.
Of course, because I mean, the
but
whole point
it's
of
just
a
that
mermaid is
often
that
if people buy us mermaid things, which they often do, I would say they mainly reflect a white cultural background, not any other cultural background.
We kind of wanted to stay away from the Disney side of it because it was, there's a danger if you're working with things like that it gets a bit sexualised, and we kind of wanted to really keep as far away from that as possible. Which is why we had mermen, and it wasn't like that. There was no shell bras or anything like that. It was kind of trying to get away from that, but still, I mean, little girls would come through and they were just fascinated by the imagery, and it wasn't all nice and happy Disney kind of stuff.
Yeah, slightly different imagery than perhaps we're used to seeing.
One little girl out of paper, just to add, you could make in this workshop, you could make things, and she made a flick knife, didn't she?
To cut mermaids out of nets.
Oh my god!
Out of paper.
When you first saw the flick knife, you were like, oh! And then she explained what it was for.
Well, she just wanted to she totally understood that the mermaids weren't free, and they needed to be free.
Oh my goodness, that's so touching. And I suppose, well, I mean, you can relate that to, when you hear terrible stories about animals getting caught up in nets or in plastic or whatever. Yeah. If that's how her mind just connected everything together, then that's just a great thing, isn't it?
We worked with the World Cetacean Alliance as well, which is a kind of a worldwide organisation that try and protect dolphins and whales from captivity and things like that. So they lent us this huge... absolutely huge big fishing net, and we had this game where you had to put on this these dolphin heads and try and crawl under this huge
but you didn't have your fingers either, did you?
You
had thin things on your fingers.
Oh my god,
you couldn't use your fingers because you had these kind of gloves on that stopped you using your fingers.
We had to help the little ones though. I couldn't have them struggling so much in it. They really were struggling. I was like, no, don't lift it up, it's cruel.
I can imagine that.
Just kind of it was kind of about making it a bit more interactive so that people could kind of feel how it felt to be trapped in a net and things like that. And so there was lots of stuff going on in there, and that's kind of ongoing. That was our research and development phase, was that the first exhibition, but we're hoping to take that round and maybe do a seaside tour with that.
That would be great. Yeah.
We'll do stuff on clean air in Leeds as well.
Yeah,
there's some ideas about that. Other ways of, and I think. You've done loads of stuff, haven't you, since then, that's sort of related to the environment, not so much artistic, but related. Yeah,
I think, but I just think art is a really good way of getting people's attention without them feeling attacked.
And
I just think we've got these skills, so therefore let's work with academics and help them to make all the stuff that they've got to say more digestible for the general public.
Yeah,
we don't need to preach the converted. It's more about just kind of giving people information so they're curious.
I think you're really right, and I think you're right about art as being the way in to touch people, because I think especially nowadays there are so many things that you could feel guilty about that sometimes I think it must feel like a lot of pressure on people. It's like which one do I choose, which one do I care about? And that whole thing about, like you said, about not making people feel guilty and feeling like you're pointing the finger at them.
See what they're inspired by rather than what they feel they ought to care about.
Yeah, exactly.
And also on a different subject, I was thinking we talked about, or we might not have talked about, we might have to cut this bit out, Leeds Creative Time Bank.
Oh yes, tell me about that.
We're both in Leeds Creative Time Bank, but when I joined the Time Bank, which was in 2012 I think, I was really interested in it because it's this alternative economy. So instead of swapping or paying money or earning money, you earn credits in hours, and also, or everybody who earns hours, and it's all for creative people, it's equal. So an hour of your time is the equivalent of an hour of my time, whatever you're offering. And I liked that in terms of the ethics of the value to each human being, whatever they're doing.
Yeah, the value of the time that you're putting in, no matter who you are and what you're offering.
And so we've been running now the Leeds Creative Time Bank for 10 years. And at this sort of 10-year point, it started in 2008, which was kind of after all of the triple crunch and the well, what are artists going to do and how are we going to support each other
and survive.
And it feels like at this decade point, we're not back there, but we're in a similar but different space, exactly the same.
Yeah.
And
I'm just going to pause for that in the cat.
yeah, I can hear her scrapping at the door.
He thinks that every time he comes in, he must be fed. That's part of his problem. So sorry, Leeds Creative Time Bank. So how can people get involved in that, or is that just something that you do yourselves?
No, people can get involved. Anyone can sign up. Yeah. So you just email the Time Bank, which is leedscreativetimebank@gmail.com. Say you want to get involved, we'll send you a sort of sign up form, and then you'll meet with either one person or in a small group to sign up. But it's creative rather than artistic,
right.
So it's a broader idea of what creativity is.
So is the idea that you're signing up to contribute to something that's going on, and then you might just know that your skills would particularly apply to something?
So I think it's just the same as you would use. It's just a different economy. So for instance, you might say you offer photography and you offer podcasts, say.
Yeah.
If somebody needed a podcast doing, they might write into the Time Bank to say, I've got this thing happening on X day, and a week before or within the 2 weeks before that, I'd really like a podcast to go out. Do you know anyone that you can put in touch with? So then you get put in touch with that person, and therefore the time that, if they've asked you to do it, the time that you'll do it on their sort of, well, you're both of your remit of when you're both available. Mm-hmm. Decide where you're going to do it, hopefully somewhere in Leeds. Decide whether you need to pay expenses or not, or whether that's all okay.
Yeah.
And then whatever hours it took you to do it, you'll get paid, and it'll sit in a kind of credited, yeah, a time account. So you'll have a time account. You might have, like, I think, you could have 60, 70, 80 hours in there. Wow. You could have 2 hours, but you decide when you spend that.
Yeah.
So it might be on, like, we've had help with our website, some of the technical stuff. We've had people design stuff,
editing,
lot of photography,
filmmaking,
and so we have quite a lot of videos for Yorkshire Life Aquatic, which we probably never would have had otherwise, because you couldn't really justify or have the funds to make them. But they're very useful and interesting things to have. So there's one that, and they were sort of for fun as much as anything. Like, we did one with Annabeth Robinson, which was like it's like a promo of Bramley Mermaids Club, and like starts with Lucy diving in a tail, and that merges into the class, in the pool, and it's got a speak over. We did one as well in Doncaster where we were we got Maria Spadafora, who's another brilliant photographer, to she was videoing us actually at that point, video us doing these short little things like we were doing. What would land swimming be like if you were instructionally teaching it? So we'd have like the bunny breaststroke, or what else did we have?
Flamingo,
the flamingo, the ballet leg, and we did it in a fountain outside.
Wow.
Cast in Doncaster.
And it's also good for people, say if you were quite new to doing filmmaking and you wanted to hone your skills a bit, then you can
so someone can mentor you. So someone who's a really good filmmaker might spend a few hours with you, and you can go, okay, this is what I need to learn. Could you tell me about that? Could you tell me about this? I'm interested in the Premiere programme, or whatever the things are. Mm-hmm. And so rather than going to a course where maybe by week 4 or 5 you get to the thing you needed to learn, you can go straight in there and go, I want to learn this, this, this and this.
That's just a fantastic idea.
And things like more admin-y stuff, like learning social media. So I've gone and helped people with how to use Twitter and things like that. Yeah. So it's not like all it has to be creative skills. It's just if you've got a skill that is useful to the creative world, and obviously social media and promotion and like copywriting and proofreading and all this kind of thing is really useful. So
yeah, definitely.
You don't need to be like an artist.
I had advice on my garden.
Oh, nice.
Because she does kind of work with plants and growing, but in a very creative way. And so we talk creatively about what with the small amount of space. The garden's big, but the bit that I'm can, without encroaching on other people's turf, what will grow easily and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I wouldn't be expected to do that, but yeah, and you can hire clothes through time.
Wow. Costume kind of,
costumes and
such a great idea. So do you have a lot of members then?
150, I think, and they're not all active, but we're always expanding our membership and always thinking about how we connect people together, and thinking about in terms of like ideally in a society what support would we as creative people want from each other, and how can we create things so that happens. Like we have like socials and events. We've got one coming up, haven't we, on the 4th of February?
4th of February. It's Leeds Creative Time Bank declares a climate emergency, so it's kind of
carbon culture.
Yeah. So it's looking at helping organisations and artists become more carbon neutral and things like that.
Oh, that's great.
But maybe not just thinking about stuff, like thinking about how they operate and I don't really know what donut economies are, but apparently we're going to learn about them. Alternative to the capitalist economy of grow something else.
And I like the whole idea of sort of helping each other out and like an exchange of skills and things like that. I think that's a fantastic idea. Brilliant. I think I'll definitely be joining up myself, to be honest, because I mean, even this weekend I've been recording 3 episodes and I've lost the person who used to edit my podcast, and I've got no idea how to edit anything, and I don't have any software. I've got this, that's it. And
I can help you with that.
But actually, just through doing the podcast and through meeting so many different people, I could get in touch with someone and say, do you know anybody who'd be able to help me out? And a lovely student from Leeds College of Music is going to help me out doing it, which is absolutely fantastic. But it felt again a little bit like what you're saying, just from doing this podcast and talking to people who are all doing amazing creative things, you're opening up your network of people.
So a lot of it's about the social capital, the networks.
I love that.
Just joining people together, and you kind of come out with these amazing collaborations of people that didn't know each other, but now.
I mean, I started off making the podcast because I knew there was so many amazing things going on. In fact, Slonglow, Alan Lane was my first guest because I've been to so many courses and things that have gone on there, and just thought, what a great thing. And then the more I've done, I started to think, oh, maybe I'll run out of things, but I never have, because there are a million people doing amazing things in the city, and all completely different, coming from completely different angles. But the more you look into it and the more people you meet, then people will tell you what other people you should talk to. And
I was just going to say we could probably recommend a few.
Well, I'm always on. Anytime, just send me any mentions of anybody that you think would be interested in coming on, because I think and that's what I mean. It sort of becomes exponential, and then you're meeting more people, and everybody's got that sort of creative vibe and wanting to go out there and do something a little bit different. And in very political, difficult times, it's lovely to have that and to know that that's going on, and it gives me a lot of hope, really, of humanity, really. Yeah,
because we can connect ourselves together and sort of counter the divisions. Even though sort of big society is trying to divide us all.
That's
make
how
us all different, but we're not, are we?
No, we're all exactly the same. We've all got so much
exactly
potential.
The same. We have so much the same. All the memes and slogans are coming out now, but I'm not going to say that. It's just there's a lot, and also difference can bring you together as well.
And it's really good to celebrate difference and to go out and meet people that you would not necessarily have met. And like you were saying earlier about the tea intolerance, I mean, often a lot of intolerance comes from misunderstanding and fear and things like that. But once you get to meet people and you realise that we're all human beings, we'll just have slightly different ways of doing things or slightly different things that we believe. But none of that is a barrier to us rubbing along together.
But the structures that we live in are a barrier, and I think it's always good to remember that those structures are dividing us and are othering people
and
by the way they're set up. So whether you mean to or not, there's always going to be a possibility that somebody's going to feel othered, because the structure's there to do that. So that has to be countered.
Absolutely, definitely. So I always ask my guests on the podcast 3 questions. You don't have to answer together, obviously. The first question is, can you tell me something that you think is great about Leeds?
All the creative people in Leeds. Not all.
Most of the creative people in Leeds.
The creative people in Leeds. The potential of the creative people in Leeds. I don't know, actually. Sorry, you'll have to edit all that out.
You don't know.
The great thing about Leeds.
Yeah, I'd say as coming up from down south, I just think it's a really it's not too big and not too small. It's a really good sized city to be able to feel part of a lot of things that are going on and feel connected.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It needs a few more swimming pools. That's my main gripe about Leeds.
There's lots of really good DIY sort of arts, creative spaces.
Actually, yeah. So the things I find that Leeds has an attitude of we're going to do it anyway. So people, if you're not going to fund us to do that, we'll make it happen.
We'll find a way to do it.
Yeah,
I like that.
There's lots of different ones. I was thinking there's one called the Sunday Practice that's at Cellar Bar that's been running for 6 years. It's like it's an open mic night. First Sunday of every month. Anyone can go along. And it's just such a brilliant atmosphere. They really make everybody feel welcome. So I would say if you've got a visitor in Leeds, take them to Sunday Practice.
Oh, that sounds great.
All the amazing choirs and music groups and stuff that are popping up. You can get involved with absolutely anything you want to do.
I think so as well. My niece has just moved here from Malton, quite a small town, and she's actually just turning 20 tomorrow. And I've been saying to if you go on Eventbrite and you just look for free activities that are going on, and then there's a new site, I think it's called Meetup. I don't know if you've checked that.
Yeah.
All sorts of amazing things that are going on that you can get involved in. And if you're new in a city and you don't really know that many people, it's a great way to network, and you're already finding people who've got similar interests in you anyway. Yeah, I think that is a good thing about Leeds. Grim, be quiet, we're making a podcast, you're not being very professional. Can you tell me about something you think is not so great about the city?
It's lacking, and I know that this is being sorted out, fortunately, but it's lacking green spaces in the city centre.
Yeah,
and
the walking.
And I find, some of the areas, Beeston being an example, it's hard to get into the city centre.
On foot.
On foot.
Yeah, I have a real problem with that.
Obviously, it's a massive. We've got
a climate emergency going on, but we're not being really encouraged to get walking because the route in is not very nice. And I think there's you can talk about electric cars and everything all you want, and I've been quite involved in the climate movement in Leeds, but simply making the routes into Leeds from certain areas nicer, friendlier.
Yeah,
would encourage people to come into the city centre more, and if there was I know that there's going to be a new space, obviously what is going on the hedgerow is going to be a lot more green space outside the Corn Exchange, and I think down by the Tetley they're doing something down there.
They're trying to make a big green walkway out there, which I think is a lovely idea. But I totally agree, because I work for the University of Leeds, but I'm based at St James's Hospital, and in an effort to get healthier, I'll sometimes walk from St James's, and the walk from St James's, I mean, it's not great, it's not too bad, but by the time I get into town and need to walk here, the roads are awful, and it's all like industrial estates and big windy sort of you tend to be going much further around than it feels like you need to be doing, and it doesn't feel particularly safe in the winter months either.
Exactly,
and I think that's a real shame, because quite often I'll get down to sort of the back of the Tetley and just think I'll just get the bus from Philadelphia home, which seems a shame because it's not that far for me to finish my journey, but by the time I get there, and I'm like, now I've got to walk around all awful windy streets, and that part of the walk doesn't feel so good.
I think Leeds needs to become more pedestrian friendly, cyclist friendly, and if we haven't got this, we've got to cut our carbon footprint, but we need to be enabled to do so by the infrastructure.
It feels like the designers, whoever they get to design the cities. I know there was a guy called Jan Gale who I saw a film on him, and he designed various places, but he said you have to think about designing it for people rather than cars, because if you look, the height of where things are and how big things are and where they're spaced, it's all made for faster moving vehicles. So if you want people to slow down, you have to slow the city down and make it conducive that you'd want to be going slow so you can see it.
Yeah, because quite often on some of the roads to St James's, you're sort of quite high up, but it's a beautiful view of Leeds that you would never get to see unless you're in a car and you're only looking up if you're a passenger, having to concentrate on the road. But it just seems such a shame that, like you say, the best views are views from cars, which is ridiculous. Yeah, that is a shame. And we always ask our guests, even if somebody was a long-term resident of Leeds, can you tell us about something that is a hidden gem that they might never have heard of? Can be anything.
I can think of a few hidden gems. One is Bramley Mermaids Club.
Yeah,
and Bramley Baths,
Yeah.
which just because it's the only community-led baths, I think it is so beautiful, and they are very kind of forward-thinking, and they do put on. It's very quirky. Us being part of that, of putting on stuff that's different, underwater discos, things like that, film
great.
Screenings, stuff like that. So yeah, the Bramley Baths, Bramley Mermaids. There's the Centre for Live Art Yorkshire as well, which is the a big live art venue that I don't think that many people know about. Well, if you're in the live art community, you'd know about it, but they do so many really awesome events, and I think if you're not in that kind of
and
circuit,
they support stuff that wouldn't necessarily be easily supported in other spaces in the city. So I feel like it is opening up that to more innovation and weirdness in a good way. Like it's good to add that freedom in. And
it's 5 minutes from the West Yorkshire Playhouse.
Wow, I didn't know about it. I go there all the time,
and it's a huge space. It's a really beautiful space. It's got glittery walls. It's lovely to go there and see something that would be quite unexpected. I think. Well, very live art.
Well, that's great.
And on Scott Hall Road, I don't know whether it's like a hidden gem to go and see, but to know about, we've got the oldest Caribbean cricket club.
I didn't know that.
In the land. In the land.
Wow.
Yeah, and because there was an exhibition at the not the art gallery, the library called Eulogy.
I wanted to go and see that, but I didn't get around to it.
Jamaican Society ran it, and the picture of these where they've got all their music instruments and everything of these oldest cricketers in Leeds was in that, and it's a stunning image.
Because I think there's a book out, isn't there?
There's a book. I've got the book. I'm hoping they'll find like an actual permanent space for it in Leeds, because then I think that would be a hidden gem. Like it's amazing, and I'm like, I know that. I know that girl, and I know that person, I know that person.
Yeah, that's lovely. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for coming to talk to me today. I feel like we're going to have just so many links for people to click on in the podcast notes and the things that they can get involved in, which is absolutely great. So thank you for taking the time.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's happening in this great city? Light on Leeds, we'll tell you. But wait a minute. Light on Leeds.
Zoe Parker and Lucy Meredith there. Do check out all of the things they were involved in currently, including Culture Vulture's online magazine, Tea Intolerance, Yorkshire Life Aquatic and Bramley Mermaids. Thanks to Richard Without-a Hatton for his editing skills. Richard's chosen the track this week, which is I'm Turning the Wheel Around by Sentimental Trash.
stars.